Did I improve in 365 days? Let's find out! In this video, I'm giving this old image a massive makeover to see how much I've grown in a year. I'm spilling all of the tea on the exact process I used to level up my quality. Let's get to it! The piece I'm going to redraw is this one, which I made roughly 1 year ago. Let's dissect exactly what this piece is lacking and how we can improve it. The overall piece is just, how do I phrase this? Quite boring, the story isn't clear enough. This is supposed to be a pirate shop where you can get your fortune told, but there's no storytelling here. Like, who is this character? If she's a pirate fortune teller, you definitely can't tell from her design or her pose. She looks a bit too ordinary, and the background is also missing narrative. If this is a shop, what does it sell? You can't even tell. Beyond the story, the execution is not working. The background is dark, muddy, and lacks design. There is no design exploration, and I remember struggling so much with the pose during that time. I didn't draw through the forms, which is something I've been actively working on since starting this channel. The only successful element is the cards on the table. They are highly visible and stand out in terms of color, but it can be pushed a lot further than this in terms of design. So this piece desperately needs like a total makeover. Beyond planning and gathering references, we will start off with sketching our ideas for the character design. This design was supposed to be inspired by Atlantis, the Lost Empire, but you can't really see that in this piece. So this time I'm going to focus on the angular shape language of that style rather than copying the style itself. The old character lacked the pirate aspect completely, and I tried to figure out how to bring that into the design, so I tested out different hairstyles, eye patches, wooden arm, etc. I tried to think of how I could make her more interesting, and then I was hit with this idea. To make her into a sea hag inspired character. I thought it would be interesting to make her into a bit of a crook, and thought it could bring the fortune teller and pirate theme together in a fun way. She's quite sharp, so triangles would be our shape of choice to make her appear more dangerous. I played around with trying to give her outfit more pirate elements in her design. So I drew some thumbnails on different clothes that could work for this character before I commit to anything. I start off doing a mannequin that I can copy and draw the different clothes on. This will save me some time from trying to make a unique pose for every single design. Next, when I have the personality and design for the character, I will sketch some quick concepts of the environment and played around with the idea of furnitures with some sea-oriented details. I even thought it was funny if there were some cursed items in the shop, like the bookshelf that she has as a display shelf. This will also suit the personality of the character, who is a bit of a crook and would definitely sell you something cursed rather than something that would be helpful. I like to brainstorm as many ideas as possible during this phase. Treat it like anything goes and just have fun with it. One thing I've learned is that when you force yourself to pump out a bunch of ideas, you stop being creative. Creativity stems from fun, play, and experimentation. So don't worry about how it looks right now. Polish and making things look good is a later concern. Next step is turning these ideas into thumbnails of the final piece. Alright, let's put the idea into context. I'll try different perspectives to see what angles to play around with. My goal is to make a couple of options and try different poses and furniture designs, while keeping it very simple. I also like to do a couple of few tonal sketches to figure out the lighting. I'm leaning towards a sunny day since I think it fits the theme quite well, but of course I test out other lighting scenarios to explore as many options as possible before committing. Now, there's one thing that is not talked about enough, is aspect ratio. Since I want this to look like a scene from a movie, I'm using the standard screen size. which is 1920 1080 pixels, meaning my thumbnail should echo that exact same ratio. Next, I'll pick thumbnail sketch that I like the best and start polishing it. At this stage, I try to build my shape on top of each other, before committing to any hard lines. If you're wondering how I'm constructing the body, you can check out this video linked down in the description. Later, I'll focus on separating everything in values. Looking back at my old artwork, I felt it was way too dark, and if I wanted to create a convincing daytime scene, it would be a lot brighter. Which also helps bring clarity to what's happening in the background. To balance this out, so I don't lose the character, I decided to make her darker to stand out. During this phase, I noticed a couple of problems with the thumbnail, where I did not put enough time to figure out the values and perspective. If you don't know what value is, here's a quick explanation. Value is a different light and dark properties an image might have. To create contrast, you simply arrange these different values, for example adding a bright value on top of a dark one. These tonal plans by Andrew Loomis illustrate how it works with simple flat planes. Colors also have different values. A light blue and yellow are the lightest value in its most saturated form. A red and a blue have a darker value compared to the light blue and yellow. So when you don't put enough time into these things, you have to correct them as you go, and that could be a bit tedious. Next, you see me add in a 3D render to help me with the perspective of how I want the scene to be, and then shifted my grid to suit that. Let me know in the comments if you want to learn how to use 3D in your workflow when designing backgrounds. To quickly explain what kind of perspective this is. It's a one-point perspective, which means that there is only one vanishing point on the horizon line, which is on this image, way above this piece top edge. This is why we look down on the objects. I have different parts of the image in different layers and groups, so it's easy for me to shift around to make the composition more appealing. I noticed a problem with the bookshelf design and the lanterns, so I had to change those in order to bring more believability and focus to the scene. Now, for the final render, I'm sticking to the idea of having a character in line art over a painted background. But I'm going for a thinner line art to mimic the look of animated movies. I'll add a blue-gray shadow color on a multiply layer and then add in the light using different blend modes. I also want to keep the background rendering minimal. One thing that I've actually learned from studying the art of arcane is that you can use occlusion, almost like line art, to separate objects and create subtle accents in your background. I don't want to copy the arcane style completely, since I like more chunky shapes, but the execution of how they render backgrounds is very efficient. I'm using a brush with some color jitter in Clip Studio Paint. It should be color dynamics in Photoshop, to get the color variation to the background and then adding some accent darks on places where I want things to pop. A pro tip when you paint background is to use the selection tool as much as possible. I had to fix the hand since I felt like it was too hard to read, so I grouped the fingers together to make a clearer silhouette. In this angle, the hand was not any easier to draw. I ended up changing the hand again after this, since it looked quite broken. I had to lighten up parts of the background since certain part of the character was not readable. I have a smaller window on the side and squint my eye to see if I can tell what I'm looking at. I'm not a huge fan of adding rim light without a reason. In this scene I had a light source in the back, so I could comfortably add rim light. Lesson learned that I should not rush the thumbnail stage of the illustration. Too carefully planning in the thumbnail stage is everything. So if you're trying to improve, a great exercise is to look at your past work and think about how you can fix your mistakes. But here's a quick word of advice. Don't just pick apart everything you did wrong. You need balance. Spotting areas that has potential is just as important as figuring out what didn't work. Once you find those areas, practice them a little bit every day. Just don't overdo it, you need to have fun too. Maintaining a healthy balance between practice and pure creativity is everything. So, what do you think about the final image? Did we improve it? For my next redraw, I will definitely focus more on value, scale, and put more time into my thumbnails. So what are your goals? Let me know in the comments below, and see you in the next one.